Hey, this is David Plotz, CEO of CityCast. I have a favor to ask before we get to today's conversation. We're doing our annual listener survey, and it would really help us out if you took it. And even if you took it last year, we'd be grateful if you took it again, because we can't use last year's data. Please go to citycast.fm/survey to take the survey. It's only 7 minutes long, we know, because we timed it. That's citycast.fm/survey. And when you take the survey, you'll also be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and CityCast swag, that great CityCast swag. citycast.fm/survey.
Today on CityCast Houston, we had the best snow day ever in Houston this week, so I'm bringing on my friend and ABC 13 reporter Pooja Lodhia, who covered it all. Plus, President Trump pardoned Texans who were involved in the Capitol riot, and it brings up a lot of interesting questions. And who in H-Town is up for the James Beard Awards, aka the Oscars of Food. It's Friday, January 24th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Pooja, happy Friday. I know it was a long week, so I'm excited that you have some time to spend with us after a busy week of reporting. How are you?
I am thrilled to be here, especially because I'm inside doing this podcast.
Yes.
It has been a cold week, but it really has been a week that I don't think any of us here in Houston are ever going to forget. We're going to be telling kids, grandkids, everybody about this. Like, remember that time? It was really a fun week.
It was such a fun week, and really, like, our spirits were lifted after Tuesday's snowfall. People were having so much fun, and Winter Storm Enzo was, for the most part, like, good. It was okay. There weren't major issues. I know a few people did lose their lives, so we think about them and the impact of that storm on their families' lives. But for the most part, as a city, we did okay. So that is our big story of the week. Like, obviously, it was all about the snowstorm, and you were out there covering it. So just tell me, how was that, first of all, being out there and in the cold for that long, because you had no breaks, it seemed like. Every time I turned the TV on, you were on.
So I don't know about you, but when I hear Houston is getting extreme weather, I get really anxious. You know, after Harvey, after the winter freeze in 2021, after Beryl, after the derecho. So I've spent the past week just sort of being nervous and dreading Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And they actually had us staying in hotels because there was a lot of fear with our managers that we are not going to be able to make it to our locations. We weren't going to be able to make it to the station. You know, none of us are really super comfortable with driving in the snow and the ice and things like that. So I woke up in that hotel room and I have never been so happy. I mean, I was thrilled. I looked outside and I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It was gorgeous, gorgeous. We went outside and it was like everybody had that same spirit. Everybody I saw just had a huge smile on their faces. They were thrilled. I mean, this is something we don't see in Houston.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. I mean, we were just going around our city. We didn't get too far, obviously, because we did want to stay off our roads for the most part. But it was like everywhere you went, we saw Houstonians having a blast. We went to Spots Park. And I'm telling you, these sleds that we saw, I mean, Houston gets an A+ for creativity. I saw pool floats. I saw trash cans. I saw like an inflatable pizza.
So many random things.
Yes. I saw one group that had seen people with pool floats on television and they brought an actual pool. They were like, we're going to one-up them and bring an absolute, like an actual huge inflatable pool. So they were all sliding down in that. I mean, what a total blast. I love that spirit.
It was just so much fun, and there were so many stories that came out of this. So I want to do winners and losers from Winter Storm Enzo. And that's the first winner. I think the stuff in our attics, right? As a city, we pulled out the most random stuff. I even saw you and Chaz Miller going down. I think it was an air mattress or like a pool or something. You guys are going down with people and enjoying the slides. I saw somebody skiing on 59 near Westland. What is happening? Somebody on 45 was tubing. Like, it was just the most random stuff.
I absolutely loved it. And speaking of winners, we got to give a shout out to our city and county officials because I think they did a great job in spreading a message. You didn't see people driving. That's why you were able to ski and go tubing down 45. But you really saw that, businesses were all closed, right? Schools were shut down. Like it was safe to really go out there and just have a great time. It truly was a snow day for everybody. So that's definitely a winner. I know that we started to see a few more crashes on Wednesday, but on Tuesday, on that major snowstorm weather alert day, we really didn't see people driving.
No, we did a good job of that. And props to everyone for following directions. And Mayor John Whitmire, said, quote unquote, it was damn near close to perfect. So, hey, awesome. Also, can we give some love to Centerpoint and ERCOT, right? Because as you mentioned, because of Winter Storm Uri, we all had those images of the power going out, pipes bursting, people passing away, losing their lives because there was not enough energy on the grid. It was a scary, scary situation in 2021, but Centerpoint and ERCOT, they did a good job. Even though the demand wasn't as high this time, right? The temperatures, for the most part, were in the 20s. Winter Storm Uri, if I recall, the average was like in the teens, right? Across the state. So a different weather event, but still, hey, they did it. And we didn't lose power, or at least mass outages for the most part.
Absolutely. And that's, that's where a lot of, I think, the anxiety came up for me, because that's exactly what I was picturing. Wednesday morning, we were out and about sort of talking to people. It's funny. We were out at Eleanor Tinsley Park, and there were some kids who were still sliding down. I'm telling you, you could barely, if you squint, see some snow and ice, but they were still doing it. They were, didn't want to give it up. But we were talking to those kids and their families. And that was like the big thing that they kept saying. Every single Houstonian woke up with just a huge, phew, we made it. We made it. The power didn't go out. We didn't have to deal with those freezing temperatures inside of our homes. I will say I sort of hesitate to give Centerpoint and ERCOT too much credit, because, this is, of course, what is supposed to happen.
Yes, they just did their jobs.
Exactly. Think about, our last 7-8 months here in Houston. We had the derecho. We had Hurricane Beryl, where my deodorant literally melted in my apartment. I didn't even know that could happen.
What?
But you know what I mean? We have had experiences. We have all lost power multiple times in the past 7 months. And it's really just crazy when you think about Houston weather like that. So I definitely think people are relieved to see that didn't happen.
Yeah, we have trust issues with Centerpoint.
We do.
We are a jaded spouse. Hey, I can't trust you right now. Okay, sorry, I can't. But hey, one day at a time, we're going to make things better. And they did. Let's go to some losers, because my first one goes off of my first winner, right? All the stuff that we pulled out, it was so beautiful. People were pulling out suitcases. We were having a great time. We're also the losers in that one, because people did not clean up their mess. Did you see the mess that was left on Wednesday? Volunteers were going around all the parks, cleaning up all of the cardboard, the random stuff that people left behind. That is a big, big losing moment for us as a city. Come on, y'all. What are we doing?
I agree. I really hate to see that. Although I love to see the volunteers. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Come on, we can do better than that.
Yeah, I saw people at Herman Park by Miller Outdoor Theater, the big hill, right? Which, by the way, you're supposed to stay off of, because I've been yelled at. I do sprints on that sometimes, and I've had somebody go, hey, you can't be doing this unauthorized. I'm like, come on, really?
Who is going to authorize you? I authorize you. You have my permission.
I know. I'm not going to get a city permit to do sprints. Come on. But yeah, it was a mess. So definitely a loser there. What is your first loser?
Yes. Let's see. Do I have a loser? Gosh, it really is hard to think of a loser when you think of, just how much fun people were having. But you know what? I do have one. Did you see that video of the HPD cruisers doing donuts?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay, so you can see it, and this happened multiple times. It's not like there was just one instance of this happening, but we did see HPD officers in their patrol cars doing donuts in parking lots and on empty highways. So it's not like they were really necessarily endangering people who were right around them, but come on.
You gotta do better than that. That's definitely one of my losers. You have to do better than that, especially when you tell people to stay off of the road. And I get it, you have to be on the road as a first responder. I get it. but you just got to set a better example. But I saw this on ABC 13's Facebook page. They posted it, the donuts. And then actually one of y'all's cameramen caught a patrol car driving the opposite way on a freeway that was closed, and they were like swerving, just going side to side.
Come on.
Yeah, like I get it on the comments. People were torn. Some are like, hey, let them have fun. They're not hurting anybody. But then others are like, come on, you got to do better. You can't do that. And yeah, we even saw Doug Griffin, who's the president of the Houston Police Officers Union, say basically, cops love donuts. Like he made it into a big nothing. But HPD took it very seriously. They are going to investigate the matter and look at stuff. I don't know, like, do you punish them, right? Like they were having fun. It's more like a public perception. You don't do that.
I agree. And I mean, they're out there telling other people not to do that. What would happen if all of us started doing that? You can't do it. It's a bad look.
Yeah. And at the same time, people were, again, skiing on 59 and riding tubes down 45.
They're not police officers, okay? I mean, we have to hold them to a different standard. But yeah, I'm kind of with you.
It's complicated.
I agree. I'm a little torn also.
Okay, Pooja, I'm going to give one more loser out here. And we kind of hit on it earlier, but we were driving a little too early on Wednesday. I feel like as a city, we got a false sense of security that things are okay. But Wednesday was the big issue in that all that snow was going to melt, and it did melt and then turned into ice and made the roads really slippery. So, most of us listened, and I get people had to get back to work on Wednesday and businesses were opening up. But yeah, Wednesday was not as good of a day, at least in the morning when it was still icy.
Absolutely. And Thursday also. I mean, it's been a really, really cold week. And when you think about how much sort of precipitation has just been on our roads and on our grounds. And I mean, I'm one of them, so I'm not making fun of other people, but we don't know how to drive in this stuff. Come on.
We don't.
Like, we don't. I don't know how to, and that's why I try not to.
Yeah, and look, do you blame the employers who are like, hey, get back to work? Or people are just like, I just want to hit the roadway. Schools were still closed on Wednesday. They did open back up Thursday. My wife dropped off the kids on Thursday, and she's like, hey, it's still kind of icy. And I'm like, good, take the other roads, please, because I don't want to file an insurance claim right now.
Right.
So, yeah. Overall, look, it was a fun moment for the city. It was a moment we all needed. And I'm glad it was one that we could celebrate. And my 9-year-old hit my 2-year-old in the face with a snowball, and it started like a whole issue. And the 2-year-old was crying. It just turned into a big deal. But it was so much fun.
Aw, but you know what? She'll remember that. They'll remember that when they're older. They're still going to be talking about that.
Yep, absolutely. Life and Death on the Border 1910 to 1920 is now on view at Holocaust Museum Houston from January 24th to May 25th. This groundbreaking exhibition is produced by the Bullock Texas State History Museum in collaboration with Refusing to Forget, and it explores a decade of hardship, conflict, and state-sanctioned violence along the Texas border that threatened to destroy a community. But this decade also led to a cultural renaissance along the border and beyond, and it inspired the Mexican-American civil rights movement. Life and Death on the Border 1910 to 1920 will be on view in Holocaust Museum Houston's Joseph and Edith Mintzberg Gallery, January 24th through May 25th. Admission is always free for ages 18 and under and college students with a valid school ID, and it's also free to everyone Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Learn more at hmh.org/lifeanddeath. Look, there's no place like Texas, except when it comes to skiing or my personal favorite, snowboarding. And I get it, you're heading to snowier pastures, but before you leave Texas, grab one last taste of the real Texas in Amarillo. If you love a good Texas road trip like me, then Amarillo needs to be on the top of your list because it's quirky, wild, western, and a spontaneous city. I mean, where else can you spray paint a Cadillac, cruise down Route 66, and even find that perfect cowboy or cowgirl hat for rodeo season? Here's a pro tip for me. If you're driving to a ski destination, make sure you stop at Palo Duro Canyon right outside of Amarillo and hike in the second largest canyon in the U.S. Heck, I think you should stop on the way back as well because of how amazing it is. After that hike, be sure to carb load on some Tex-Mex and then pop into a speakeasy in Amarillo and grab a well-deserved drink. The mountains may be calling, but Amarillo will make you proud to call Texas home. Start planning your trip to Amarillo at visitamarillo.com and après ski into the real Texas. All right, Pooja, let's get to our most overlooked story because things were still happening while we were all celebrating the snow and having fun. It was a week with other news. What was your most overlooked news?
I mean, we have a new president.
Yeah.
I feel like many of us here in Houston have really overlooked that. It was easy to sort of forget about the inauguration. Our new president really started off with multiple executive orders. It was crazy. You know, on Monday, I walked into work and it was like on one screen, it was the inauguration. So a huge day for our country. On another screen, it was our city's Martin Luther King Jr. parade, and everywhere else it was all weather. I was like, what is this? Like, what a crazy, crazy day and a crazy week. I think a lot of people across the country are obviously talking about the inauguration. They're talking about, you know, what President Trump has been doing. But here in Houston, I feel like, I mean, at least I know on our newscast, we've been so focused on weather because that really has been the big story that I do feel like a lot of it has just been overlooked.
Yeah, so many different executive orders signed, right, regarding immigration, DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, executive orders targeting some of those jobs and some of those policies. And then also the one that, you know, really caught my eye. I know ABC 13 did a story on this, but I don't know if you saw this or not, but President Trump did pardon a lot of people, like 1,500 people who were charged with crimes during the January 6th Capitol riot. Now, that's not everyone, but that is a lot of people. And about 120 Texans, including some charged or convicted for violent actions like the 3 Texas men who attacked police with a flagpole. There was also 18 from the Houston area that had been arrested, indicted, or convicted of crimes related to the riot at the Capitol on January 6th. So that happened, and it's been a big deal across the nation. But I feel like as a city, we haven't talked about it.
That's right. I mean, and not only did it happen, but it happened the first day. It happened just hours after that inauguration. I think a lot of people thought it might happen, but I still think people are surprised that it actually did. And I think people are especially surprised that these pardons also apply for people who attacked police officers. And I think a lot of people were really surprised by that. I mean, all of us watched what happened on January 6th. And I think when that was happening, it would have been unbelievable to think that this would be the sequence of events after it.
For sure. And this is my personal opinion. This is like an obvious attempt to rewrite history. And this was something that the administration promised to do during the election cycle. So it's not a shock that they did it, but it's so weird to me that they are so, you know, back the blue. We need more cops. We love our cops. But as we just mentioned, they pardoned people who literally assaulted officers and left 100 officers injured. And then you also had Vice President Vance and a few Republicans even say that they shouldn't pardon those responsible for violence. But nonetheless, it was a sweeping pardon. So, you know, it's just weird. Like, you can't say one thing and do another, right? And that's the frustration for a lot of people with this administration. And this was only the first week. So buckle down.
It will be very, very interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks and months and years. I mean, because I think a lot of these executive orders, we don't really know at this point what they mean. You know, when we talk about renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, is that something that could really happen? I don't know. When we talk about, you know, possibly ending birthright citizenship, there are so many questions involved in what that would actually mean. And I don't think any of us really have the answers to that yet.
Do you plan your vacations based on whether you can speak the local language? With Babbel, language no longer has to be the barrier. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I went to Mexico City a couple of years ago with my girlfriend, who's a native Spanish speaker. So I just let her do all the talking, like all of it. I adored the city, and now I'm going to go back in a couple of months, but with my college roommates, who are a bunch of middle-aged men, none of us Spanish speakers. When I was younger, I might not have been bold enough to do that, but now I'm not anxious because Babbel has me covered. Thanks to Babbel, I know how to order a taxi, how to give directions, how to order in a restaurant, all the small, and useful bits of language that make international travel easier. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in a new language, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations, especially the sort you need while traveling. Food, how to get places. Babbel's tips and tools are inspired by the real-life stuff you actually need when communicating. With a focus on conversation, you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. So I hope I'll see you in Mexico in a couple of months. Or, as we say, espero verte en Mexico en un par de meses. So let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. The app is simple. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports app today and use code FIELD and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FIELD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
All right, Pooja, we have already talked about so much joy and what a week it was for the city of Houston. Do you have another moment of joy?
Ooh, I mean, it's been honestly a really joyful week, and it's not every week I get to say that. So that's a really cool thing.
I love it.
Yes. You know, I was doing an interview a couple of days ago when I talked to a woman at House of Pies, and she said, you know, this was a mental health day that all of Houston really needed. And I love that she said that because that's sort of what it felt like for me also.
Mm-hmm.
I also actually got to cover the Houston Marathon last weekend. And that was really fun too because it was so cool. Maybe that counts as my second moment of joy because it was so awesome. It felt even colder out there than it felt on Tuesday and Wednesday. I mean, it was freezing.
It was windy.
But it was so cool to see how many families were out there still supporting their loved ones.
Yeah. I love all the signs from the marathon. Yeah, you went from marathon coverage outside. You got a break on Monday and then outside Tuesday, Wednesday. So, hey, shout out to you and stay warm for the rest of the weekend, hopefully. My moment of joy is about our amazing restaurant scene and our amazing chefs.
Yes.
Because 13 of them were named as James Beard semifinalists, which basically is one of the highest honors. It's like the Oscars of food. And some of the highlights include Emma as Best New Restaurant, which is the official restaurant of CityCast Houston. Like, we always bring it up because it is so good.
Yes.
Have you been there?
I have, and I absolutely loved it. Chilaquiles are my favorite food in the whole world. And their chilaquiles may be some of the best that I've had in Houston.
Oh my gosh. The hard part is picking out just one pastry. So I just order all of them. I have no self-control. I'm terrible with sweets. I know it. I know where my weakness is. March and La Jardiniere got some love for their wine and beverage services. Best chef in Texas, there were 6 chefs from Houston named, including Ope Omosu of Chop and Block, Emmanuel Chavez of Tatamo, and others as well. And here's the thing, though, Pooja, we haven't won a James Beard Award in 2 years. The last winner was Street to Kitchen's Chef Painter, who won Best Chef in Texas. So it's time to win some awards. Like, being a semifinalist is cool, but it's time to get some awards.
We deserve it, too. Street to Kitchen is another one of my absolute favorite restaurants. Have you been there?
I have.
Do you like spicy food? I actually don't know this about you.
I love spicy food.
Do you? I am such a baby about spicy food.
Really?
I know it's so pathetic because I'm Indian, I'm from Louisiana, but I can't handle my spice. But when you go there, you know, they won't make any exceptions because they say no, absolutely not. I think actually Madonna went there when she was in town and asked them to make the food milder. And they were like, nope. This is what we have.
Oh, man.
So if Madonna doesn't get the exception, I don't. But I love their food so much that I will eat it. I will just be crying. I don't care.
It's worth it.
It is that good. It is worth all the pain I feel from that spice because it is so, so delicious.
It's so good. I'm not going to gatekeep this restaurant, but there's a restaurant in Sugarland, which I believe is just as good. All right. I know this is high praise, but Thai Square in Sugarland in New Territory,
Okay.
is the absolute best Thai food I've had in a long time. All right.
Okay.
And like, yes,
Well, you just gave me weekend plans.
I'm telling you, hit me up. We're going to eat some Thai food. You can
that
hang out with
sounds
the
so good.
kids. My daughter saved a snowball to hit you with. Like, it's in the freezer, ready to go. So, yeah, I'm not going to gatekeep that restaurant. But, man, there's so many good options. And shout out to all the restaurants and chefs that earned that semifinalist love. Hopefully we get a winner here. Pooja, that was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay warm, okay?
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Pooja Lodhia. You can watch her on ABC 13. Want to learn more about all the stories we talked about today? I've linked them in our show notes so you can read up on them even more. And while you're in the show notes, be sure to subscribe to our daily newsletter, Hey Houston. Now, if you haven't shared an episode of CityCast Houston this week, please do it right now. Like, get your phone out. I'm watching you. Hit that share button, text it to a friend, and tell them, I love CityCast Houston. I think you'll love it as well. Thank you so much for doing that. Also, you can rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening right now. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new here. Thanks. That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. Our producers this week were Carleon Jones and Lizzie Goldsmith. Lizzie also helped with the newsletter this week alongside Brooke Lewis, so a big thank you to her. Our executive producer is Laura Isensee, and I'm your host, Raheel Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos. We'll be back on Monday to learn about why community groups are frustrated with Mayor Whitmire. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
He issued, what am I saying?